quickest way to get it off.
Down here at S&P today for some more patrol mods. I'm not sure if this is going to be like the second half of a video or the start of a video, but yeah, either way, we're still building the TB48 GU patrol, so we've got a few things going on today. We've just started pulling off the old exhaust. Very excited for this, finally getting a new exhaust on it. It's a full Legend X exhaust upgrade with your extractors and everything in the engine bay, so a little bit of a job there, but getting that done. Obviously that one's just like rusted out. It's got like cracks and holes through it everywhere. Good to get a proper exhaust on it. Long range tank to go on there, so that's got that through Outback Equipment, and it's an Outback Accessories one. I'm pretty sure they make these over in Western Australia. So that's a replacement rear one. And then the other possibility, depending on how those two jobs go, is we have a rear bar as well finally, which is through Outback Equipment, Outback Accessories one. So dual jerry can holder with your rear bar, which will finally fit the spare 35-inch tyre on the back of it. So the boys are just in there having a bit of smoke out at the moment. We're also waiting for the car to cool down. We've got like the back end of the exhaust off, but it's still so hot up near the engine bay and everything just from the 15-minute drive here this morning. Now we'll pull the rest of that exhaust out and yeah, get into them, see how we go. Actually, why they're in there doing that, finally got some new hubs on it. So these are the GQ manual hubs, which are sort of the strongest of your hub range rather than those auto ones. So obviously you can just lock your hubs and axles in now and unlock them. And then we got the load bearing, load spreading, anti-explosion rings, whatever you want to call them, which helps spread the load of those hubs. So basically with your rings, your hubs, it's very, very hard to break this hub setup now. That's sort of the strongest of your hub setups. And then the other thing we just did was we relocated the ECU, because a few people said to do that. The ECU on this is basically right down here in the passenger footwell, and we moved it up behind the dash, so it gives you another like 1.5 foot of water clearance there. And if you got water like up behind your glove box, well, you got some pretty serious issues. But it's not that hard to get water in down around the feet there, and then you fry your ECU and it's game over. All right, we'll keep cracking into pulling this exhaust off. Proudly supported by Outback Equipment, Tread, and in part by. Now that the patrol had a little bit of time to cool down, Nick and Pat were able to take off the rest of that exhaust and get to work on moving those extractors. They aren't too hard to get to on the TB48s. You just need to remove the air box and some of the piping there, a few sensors, and then you can get down onto those heat shields, and the extractors are in behind there. So which ones are the ones that snap the main, like half a dozen along the top there?
And the bottom under it.
Yeah.
That'll be right, I reckon. Some saving.
Bolts and extractors came out all good, no issues. It was time to give the area a little clean up before installing the new extractors. What's that, just to get some of the muck and rust and that off?
Yeah. Normally use emery paper, but we're all out.
That's the old extractors out there. Nick's pulled them out. We got all the studs out because we got new ones to go in, and then clean that surface up there a little bit, make it nice and smooth and flat. That's the old extractors down there, and then yeah, Nick's got the new bolts there to go in, so start piecing the new one together. And they got a brand new gasket here as well. So gasket, new studs, new bolts, new extractors, everything nice and fresh. Here's the new extractors to go in, 1, 2, they're the ones from Legend X, and there's your 2 old ones out. They're so much lighter. Well, we've probably got rid of a few kilos of these heavy ones there. But yeah, these will run much better as they come out, as it comes out of the engine. Oh, is that just a bit of that gasket goo you put on?
Yeah, a bit of gasket goo. Never hurts, even though it is a new gasket. So like, we don't want to be pulling it back off. I've got these 2 little 3 little tabs.
Oh yeah.
So when they do on, that's sort of like squished in a little bit so they don't back off. So you can't wind them on with your fingers past on. There.
New extractors in there with your new studs, new bolt heads, new gasket. It's all in there, all looking pretty good. From there, Nick had to attach the sensors and then piece everything back together.
They're in there, done up. Studs on. Beautiful though. Oh, look at that.
Perfection.
Look at that. You wanna have a look at that?
Yeah, I'll come have a look at that.
Oh.
Now that the extractors were done, Nick and Pat were able to start working their way backwards, piecing the exhaust together. Working our way back with the exhaust from the extractors, so into a 2-piece there, then a 1-piece, and then we haven't put the next 2 bits on just because we're going to do the fuel tank and rear bar first before we start getting more pipes and that in the way down there.
Tyler needs to wash his car. Ready for the dirt? 3, 2, 1. Have you seen dirt up in here?
No, I do wash it, mate.
Look up in here.
Now to fit the new bigger fuel tank, you have to remove the rear bar / bumper bar as well as the tow bar, but it wasn't a big deal because we had the new rear bar to go on anyway, so either way it had to come off. The boys got to work doing that. Then started pulling the fuel tank out, but to get the fuel tank out you need to get the rear bar off, and then to get the rear bar off you need to get the whole bumper bar off. So basically now everything's in pieces, but lucky we got to put the new rear bar and all that on anyway. What are they? They're the fuel lines?
They're fuel lines.
So this is made to access the fuel tank, is it?
Yeah.
So that's everything off the rear of the car there, got all the bits and pieces off, got the fuel tank out, had to get it in from the floor pan in the boot. That's the old tank out there, that's obviously the new one going in. So when you pull the old tank out, you gotta unbolt and get out your fuel pump, send the unit, there's your, Nick was just saying, there's your sensor for your light there, so when your fuel light, that's how your fuel light comes on, and when it goes from that, there's obviously your thing that moves up and down to say how much fuel's in the tank. So take all that out and then put that in the new tank over there, and then what, ready to bolt back in. Once the new fuel tank was bolted in and everything was pieced back together, we chucked some fuel in it, and then it was time to start bolting the new rear bar on. Now, why did I get a bigger fuel tank on the Patrol? Well, originally the main tank was 90 litres. This one is 147 litres, so it gave me a fair bit more fuel there. Plus with the sub tank of 40 litres, I now have 187 litre capacity on the Patrol, and given that it does chew through a fair bit of fuel, I just wanted that extra range and that confidence when you are out on the tracks remote for a few days, you're not going to run out of fuel. And then the rear bar, there was a few reasons for going that. The first one being to protect the rear end. I was already smashing the factory bumper bar to pieces out on the tracks. The second reason being a place to mount the spare tyre, the 35-inch tyre. You can mount it on the door with a spacer for the bracket, but those doors have been known to crack with the weight of a big tyre on them and then out on the tracks all the time, bumping and jarring the car around. And then the third reason was it was a place to mount 2 jerry cans, meaning I could take extra fuel if I really needed it. But what I'll be commonly using it for is a place to put 2 20-litre jerry cans of water. So that'll be where I'll be storing my water, spare tyre and protecting the car. Plus, I think it looks pretty cool too. As per usual with most jobs, there's always got to be some little issue, and because of the larger fuel tank down the rear, the last bit of the exhaust pipe was clashing with it. With some handiwork from Pat, he was able to modify that last bit of pipe just that little bit needed to make it fit. Alright, we ended up finishing a little bit late that night by the time we got out of there, so I didn't really film a proper wrap up, but I thought I'd do that now. So the rear bar's all on, super stoked of how it came out, and I got that spare tyre on now, so you can see that too, so everyone will be very pleased to know I finally do have a spare tyre on the back of the Patrol. That was upsetting a lot of people in every video, so there it is there. And then that'll provide much more protection around it. We didn't get a chance to properly finish it off. I'm actually going back next week to just got to put the dual jerry can holders there, so if I get a picture before this video is done I'll whack that up, otherwise you'll see it in a future video. But yeah, you're gonna have 2 jerry can holders sitting there. And then the boys at S&P just got to finish up tidying up some of this wiring when they put that on too. Once the dual jerry can holder comes off that bracket there, like it'll connect on that too, same as that latch there, and then the number plate is going to move down onto that bracket there. Now with the long range tank at the back there, I know people are going to say, oh, it hangs down low now, you're going to smash on everything. And look, maybe right, but it doesn't hang down too low. So it sits in line with the tow bar. It sort of tapers up towards it. Like you got your diff, your panhard rod. There's a bit of a low point through there because the old tank was like, you know, that bit higher up there. Being that it's steel, it'll take punishment. It'll just bend and mold a bit to shape if I'm smashing it on things. But yeah, I'll just test it, see how it goes. If I bend and squish it around a little bit, that won't be the end of the world. And I'll see how it goes for smashing rocks and getting me caught up on things, but I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue. Now, because this video turned out a little bit short, I'm going to chuck the Snorkel install, which you can actually see there, and you probably would have seen the Snorkel install in somewhere when we're doing this anyway, so we'll jump in to the Snorkel install now as the second part of this video. When you're up against the wall and you cannot fall, so go off, go off, go off, so go off, go off. Yeah, sorry, I made you dip the life harder today with hard. Alright, back with another build episode of the GU Patrol. We are down here at Momentum 4x4 and starting with the Snorkel. So we're going to do Snorkel and airbox. Now I have gone for a stainless Snorkel, same brand company, the one I have on the nav, which is Platinum Mechanical and Suspension. For me, there was a couple of reasons I went to stainless. Main one, number one reason just being looks. I personally prefer the looks of the stainless over plastic. That's just a personal thing for me. I think they look much better. And they're also tough. The one on the nav, I've smashed into banks in that numerous times and never broken it, never had an issue with it at all. Whereas the plastic one, if you hit it hard enough, you're gonna smash it. And then a few people are very hesitant on getting stainless ones because they're concerned about getting water down them. In my personal experience of owning plastic and snorkel, the only snorkel I've ever actually got watered down and soaked the airbox is a plastic one, where I was driving down the highway for a couple of hours in pouring rain, and then I pulled up and the airbox is actually full of water. Might have just been the snorkel at the time, not sure. But yeah, these stainless ones, I've tried as hard as I can to get them watered down them in all conditions, all weather conditions, snow, you know, hailstorms, all that sort of stuff. And just the way they sit and they're folded over, I've never had any water issues at all with them. So they've worked great for me. That's the first job today. Todd's here doing that. He's going to cut the guard and fit the snorkel. Obviously you got your stainless snorkel here. Comes with a template to match for where you need to line up and cut your guard. And then we got some piping for it as well, some hard piping and like your silicone piping to get it into the airbox once it's actually cut in. And then the only other thing I guess is, what is the point of a snorkel? What's the purpose of it? Well, it's basically just a raised air intake is the main reason, because you know, engines obviously need air to breathe, and it's down there in the engine bay. This will bring it up nice and high up near your roof, which does help a little bit with dust into your airbox, but the main reason being raised water intake. So that when you're doing deeper water crossings, muds, things like that, you're not going to drown your engine, because obviously if you get water in the airbox down the engine, well, that's very disastrous. I only just got home from a trip last night, so I've turned up here with a muddy, dirty car today to make Todd's life harder. So what's sort of the rough plan with doing a snorkel? Like just line your template up really, then cut it?
Yeah, I just put my reference mark in there.
Yeah.
And then I'll just go and cut it. Got 10 mil inside. Then I'll just keep dummy fitting and go, yeah, I need a bit more out of there. They do rub. If the hole's too big, they'll just flop around inside.
Yeah, okay. Snorkel's one of those things where you don't want to get it wrong.
No.
Once you cut a hole, that's it.
There's my baseline. Now I just work to that. I know it's not going to fit the way it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to open that up. It's not that I don't trust the guys making the templates.
Yeah.
It's just I like them to fit perfect.
Yeah.
Like there's no gaps.
Yeah. Once Todd was happy with the cut, he fixed up any rough edges, gave it a little paint, and then began drilling the holes on the edge of the pillar where you're actually going to mount the snorkel, so they get nut certs put into them and then you bolt the snorkel on.
That's the easy bit done.
What's the hard bit, plumbing it through?
Nah, it should be alright hopefully. We've just got to cut through this guard.
Yeah.
You got one hole there,
Yeah.
but you got the inner structural panel in there. You've got to cut through.
Yeah.
But I should be able to.
Now that the snorkel was all mounted and in place, it was time to connect the end of the snorkel through to the airbox. Does that airbox need to be sealed in any way? Does it have any...
Well, it does have this little guy on it.
Which is is that a one-way valve?
Yeah. Sort of petrols are not too bad. Like if you do get water in them, it's sort of up to you. Like it's personal preference. Me personally, I seal them up, but
Because
you don't really need to. Like if you're sitting in water and the car's sucking, you've got a nice air cleaner. The air cleaner's blocked, it's going to try and get it from somewhere.
Yeah.
Like the air, so it will try and suck up through that.
Yeah.
But if you do have a rock or something jamming that open, it will slowly pull water up through it.
So it's just a bit of a safety thing. If you do get
Yeah.
water in there, it's not got somewhere
But
to
it's
get
sort
out.
of like then if you are getting water in from your snorkel, like from rain and that sort of thing, these will fill up, it can't get out.
Yeah.
So it is a good thing to have them. A little bit of water through your filter's not too bad anyway.
Yeah.
It's not going to kill them. It's just when your filter's full,
Yeah.
it's going to be an issue.
What, you got to be a contortionist to try and get all this piping through here and up to the snorkel?
Pretty much.
Yeah, so obviously getting rid of factory plumbing. Yeah, because that obviously wasn't very waterproof. It was just basically like
you could use it. Yeah, you just have to seal it up.
Clipped on. So, see, that's the problem I always find with people, that they get a Snorkel, but then the airbox is the one that lets them down. I saw it happen 3 times on our Cape York trip.
Yeah, right.
Where people had water in the intake and had a Snorkel, but it was just because like your connections and that weren't sealed up properly. That seems to be what always catches people out.
Your Snorkel is 100% sealed. You should be able to start your car, hold your hand over that Snorkel, and the car should stall.
Yeah, because not getting any air.
You can't suck any air. It's going to be sucking all your rubber hoses flat. You just can't get it in.
I did have the idea of doing a custom stainless airbox, because that's what I've done on the nav as well. But I was talking to Todd about it, and he was like, these filters on the TB48 are so good already. You know, they're a nice big filter. We'd be better off just making this one waterproof, which is why we're doing all the new piping and that, because yeah, the old piping is not waterproof. And the stainless airbox are like pretty expensive, you know, maybe $600–700, when this is obviously much cheaper just to use this one. And yeah, it's going to work perfect anyway. Nice and waterproof, nice big dust air filter in there. So that's obviously a new air and dust take in there, runs down into the guard. And then it's hard to see, but you got a connection there through a stainless pipe to a connection there, and then that's where it comes out of your guard, and then it's going to loop around, just piping that up into the airbox and then out the other side into the engine. Future me back again, because once again I didn't actually properly finish off the sort of end the Snorkel install part. So yeah, super stoked of how that all came out. Todd did an awesome job. So there's the platinum mechanical suspension Snorkel nicely mounted up there, and stoked of how that airbox came out. So just to change like your airbox and filter, it's not really any harder. You just undo those couple of Utilux clips there, and it's a nice waterproof sealed setup now. And I did whack it up on the screen, but if you didn't see it, we decided to leave that one-way valve in the bottom of the thing here. Like, it shouldn't really ever let any water in, and I'd rather have the risk of sort of being able to let water out rather than fully sealing it and no water can ever get out of the system if it was to get in there. And then while I'm going here, I thought I'd have a chat about a few mods that never really actually properly made it into the install videos. The first one being the Legend X rock sliders. So Legend X up in Queensland did these, the same guys that did the exhaust. We actually installed them at G-Works there one night. Nick helped me out with that, so I do have a little bit of footage from that. I'll whack that up on the screen. But yeah, they've been awesome so far. I've already punished them a bit. They're proper rock sliders, so they're built heavy duty, made for taking the weight of the car. They're bolted into the chassis underneath there. And then one of the reasons I really like these ones is because they have an infill panel along there. See, on the nav I don't have that infill panel, and then sticks still shoot up in there and then dint your seals anyway. Just like has happened here, stick came up and smashed that seal in. Same down there, it happens to me all the time. So hopefully having that panel in there will stop that happening. The next one, the Tyres and Rims, never mentioned them yet. So they are Good Ride Mud Legends. They are a 315 by 75 on a 16-inch rim, so they're basically a 35-inch tyre. I've done about 15,000 Ks on them now, and they've been really good. My only probably slight downfall of them is they are a little bit noisier on the road than other mud tyres I've had. They bag out pretty well, so you normally have to let them down not quite as much as other brands. They are a bit of a cheaper tyre, and I was interested to see how cheaper tyre would go, because the top brand's honestly so much money these days, and yeah, it's held up quite good other than that extra bit of on-road noise. They're a 10 ply, so they're the same thickness as all your top brands. And then with the rims, they are from Dynamic Wheel Coat. They're a steely. They're 16 by 8 on a neg 22 offset. Alright, that's it. I'll wrap this video up. I'll just do a voiceover now up on the screen and pop up all the prices of mods from this episode, which will end up being quite a few now. I've added these last couple of things onto it. Hopefully everyone's enjoying these build videos. Probably got 1 or 2 more to go, and then I reckon that's about all the mods done. I've chucked all the prices up on the screen here. On the first slide, you got the Legend X exhaust. It's a 2.5 inch with extractors, $1,295. Long range fuel tank, $1,212. And then the rear bar, $3,182. The rear bar and long range tank were both through Outback Equipment. Then we got the Snorkel, $1,100. The rock sliders, $1,250. The tyres were $345 each, and then the wheels were $260 each. Alrighty, that's the end of another build episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see everyone in the next one. So the boys are just in there having a bit of So I did have the idea of